gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the HyperConscious podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we sat down and talked about how and why it is so important to meet your partner's needs. Today, for episode number 333, we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on what? Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to say that? Working harder? No, working smarter, not harder.
Yes.
Working hard versus working smart. Yeah.
Before we do, go on.
I want you to go to the HyperConsciousPodcast.com, click on join, #HyperConsciousNation. Folks, if you are craving love and connection during this difficult time, that is the place to get growth, love, connection, networking, meeting like-minded individuals, set up masterminds, start talking about the future, because right now, the world's changing a bit and it's going virtual. So why not start creating online friends that are all like-minded? That's the place to do it.
Love it. And if you are looking to come out of this time far better than where you were when you went in, both Alan and myself still do have a couple spots available. Alan is focused right now a lot on peak performance business coaching, tracking the numbers, because most people don't like numbers. And I know that I was talking to a client recently and I said, one of the worst things that ever happened to you was you found success before you found systems.
Oh my God, that's fire. My God, that's fire. Why didn't I think of that?
It's like that with a lot of people though. Like if you're successful by accident, it's not replicable. And that means you by luck, you cannot replicate luck. So if you're looking to really dial in your numbers and figure out, why did I get the clients I got? Why did I make the profit that I made? Why didn't I make the profit that I made? Why are my margins down? Why am I not able to get clients? Alan is your guy, and I also am doing that on a smaller level. I'm not as focused on the numbers. I'm focused on the habits, the day-to-day. You're not getting clients because you're not prospecting, right? That's usually one of the things.
Thank you for that plug, man. That was very nice.
You're very welcome.
I'll never forget when we first met Eddie P and we dialed into his numbers, and he's a super successful YouTuber. He has amazing videos. As a matter of fact, I've been listening to a lot of him lately during my workouts, which is cool. So shout out to you, Eddie P. We should have him back on the show at some point.
You definitely can.
But I remember finding out that he never really dug deep into his YouTube numbers. And I remember crunching some numbers and realizing like these certain videos are really hitting heavy. Why not make more of those? Because that's what people want. Right. And that's what's adding value. And that's what I'm going to help business owners do. And just anyone in their personal life as well. Yeah.
And if you're looking to start a podcast, again, I think now is a great time. Look at this. Alan and I are still able to do our thing, to grow our career, to grow our area of expertise. We just had Nir Eyal on here, who is uber successful, right? We just had a great fire guest remotely. We do most of our podcast remote. So if you're looking to start that podcast, if now is finally the time when you're ready to do it, I am here and very excited to help you. So let's talk about working smarter, not harder. Why did we talk about this? Or why are we talking about this?
So let's contextualize this. Okay, so I used to have this saying that I would say in my early speeches. I remember I gave a few speeches at WPI. One of them was called Success on Your Own Terms. And I remember saying this. I said, the person who works hard will always beat the person who doesn't. But the person who works smart will always beat the person who works hard. Now, why I said that is, let's try to define, I guess, what is the difference between working smart and working hard? One of the best analogies I can give is I was on the phone with my fitness coach a long time ago. This had to be a year and a half, 2 years ago. And you and I, Kev, we used to talk about always putting in the reps and how important that is, especially because early on our journey, we were just trying to master our craft and we were putting in the reps podcasting, right? I remember it was 1 episode a week, then 2, then 3, now 4, and we've been consistent. And here we are with 300 episodes. So putting in the reps is very important. But I remember Nate Smithson saying, okay, it's not just about putting in the reps though. Imagine going to the gym and doing 300 reps with just the bar of squats versus the person who goes in and does 5 sets of 185 for 5. 300 reps for the first person, 0 gains. 5 by 5 is 25 reps for the second person where they're actually going to make gains and strength. And so the key is to integrate those two. How do you work hard as hell? Yes, but also work really smart and create leverage.
I think there's so many different ways that this episode could go, because the level of your smart work is predicated on how clear you are on what actually moves the needle. And I do believe this to be true. there is going to be a time probably early in your business where you are working unbelievably hard and very not smart. I think that is par for the course. I can think of tons of times where, like, let's think of this. When you and I were in Florida and we were cranking out our online training programs, there was no smart work. It was hard work. It was what has to get done while we're down here.
Right.
And I think those are going to be seasons of life. I think those are going to be seasons of your business. I think it's going to be seasons of everything. But I also look back to when you and I were lucky enough to get advice from Evan Carmichael, and he said, your thumbnails suck. Like, you should really redo all your thumbnails. I stayed up until 2 or 3 in the morning doing all our thumbnails. When we found out that David Meltzer wanted to sponsor the show, and we had to give him a product of like, this is what your sponsorship's going to look like, I stayed up until 2 or 3 in the morning doing that. Was that smart? Maybe you wouldn't consider it smart from the aspect of lack of effort, but I think it was smart and hard because it was smart to say, today it's time to work super hard, or work longer than I would, or don't worry about uploading this YouTube episode. This is way more important. So I do think that there's always going to be a balance of that.
Always. I think working smart is the skill of being able to prioritize the vital few from the trivial many, and working hard is executing consistently on those things. Do you remember when we had Michael Burt on the show and he said the following quote? He said, success in life in any arena comes down to making good decisions, but your decisions can only be as good as your understanding.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is early in your journey, you don't really know how to work smart yet because you don't have the distinctions. And that's one of the,
it is.
Right. Dude, it's like when we get coached by Dave, and we have another call actually coming up, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. And after every call, Kevin and I stay on the phone, or it used to be in person back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
And we talk about what do we want to do differently now that we can work smarter now. Because usually we learn a few things where it's like, I remember when we didn't even know what a business funnel was.
Right.
And it's like, we would never have figured out what a business funnel was if we didn't put in the reps and work hard to go meet someone like Dave. So you do have to do both.
Yeah. I mean, especially early, I think you're going to have to, that's how you build momentum. You don't build, and maybe you do, but in my mind, you don't build momentum by working smart. You keep momentum growing by working smart. I think
it's fire.
If you're pushing a train, the beginning, like, yeah, okay, could you work smart? Yeah, attach the train to a car and pull it. But if you don't have that car yet, which you probably don't because you don't have the experience, you're going to have to work hard. And that's going to mean pushing that thing. Now, working smart means clearing the tracks and making sure there's nothing in the way, all of that. But
great analogy.
I think of it like we were talking to, and this is where this all came from. We were talking on a team call with Amy and Tiff.
Right.
And we were talking about, I wish I delegated things a lot sooner.
Right.
And we were telling Amy and Tiff that, like, you guys are early in your business careers. You're early. Maybe you're still getting clarity on what you want. But I think that people wait way too long. to spit all over the place. Way too
Don't
long.
worry. You can't see it with your webcam. It's not detailed enough.
It's coming in the 20th. Amazon's shut down, so it's a whole thing. You're early in your career, and I wish that I started delegating things way sooner. Now, I think what happens is people say, I don't have the money for that yet. Like, I'm new. I don't know that I want to invest the money in that. If you're good at business, if you're good at getting clear on what moves the needle, you'll realize that at that hour that you're paying, let's just say $9 an hour. You're paying $9 an hour for somebody to make you a teaser clip. In that hour, you can make $100 if you charge $100 an hour.
Right.
And the distinction,
that's a net $91
every time. Rinse and
every single time.
Every time you go to that casino, you're making $91.
Right.
Right.
That is such a powerful concept.
But it's hard because it doesn't work like that every time. If you don't have clients right now,
yes,
this is what'll happen. You'll delegate the work and say, well, now I have an extra hour to do nothing. I'm spending $9 a day. Well, now it's time for you to up your level of prospecting. Now, a lot of this came, especially for me. This was a breakthrough for me. I think it was Brad Lea that said this. He's very similar to Gary Vee. He's definitely a very successful business guy. He's a podcaster. He's a entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He's a lot of things. He said, people talk about having only 24 hours in a day. That's wrong. It's dead wrong. If you have 10 people that work for you. They each work for 8 hours a day. You have 80 hours in the day.
Plus your 24 or plus your
8 figure.
8, right, figure, yeah.
So you have 88 hours in the day instead of 8. That is what delegating will do for you. I am on this podcast right now while teaser clips are being made. I am on this podcast right now while our show notes are getting done. Now, I wish I did that sooner, but that's what we're trying to bring to you guys. There is, grind, sure. Like, yeah, Gary Vee says grind, grind, grind. Absolutely. There's a time and a place for that. But we're talking about lifestyle design. Gary Vee loves grinding. Not everybody does.
Right.
Not everybody does.
So you used a really good analogy on the team call, and I want to always bring our listeners some of the value from that. So you said in your podcast consulting that if you spent that extra hour prospecting to get another high ticket client to help them, you're not just scaling money, you're scaling impact as well. Mm-hmm. So if you can charge $9 or pay someone $9 to do, let's say, the show notes, and that would have taken a half hour of your time, that means that whatever you do in a given half hour needs to be worth at least $9. And if it's not, then you're losing money.
Right.
But this all comes down to understanding the value of your actual skills. And I think it's really hard for people early in their journey to understand the value of their time because they don't make a lot of money.
Well, they don't get compensated for their time yet.
Exactly. When you and I worked at our old jobs, we used to pay for things constantly that we didn't want to deal with. Like if my car broke, just whatever, pay for that. Like make that problem go away. Why? Because I knew my time was worth, I think I calculated it. I made like $350 a day or something like that. After taxes, which is like pretty good.
Yeah.
And so if I just valued my time more. But what's interesting is I shouldn't be valuing my time more back then. I'm 10 times more valuable now, in my opinion, in terms of my business acumen, my personal development, my ability to help others succeed in their own unique journey. Why am I valuing my time more back then than I am now? It's human nature to think that just because I'm getting paid that much. But you kind of have to think that way in advance is what Kevin's trying to say.
Yeah, I'll give an example. This is a great example. When I moved to Worcester. My landlord at the time called me and said, "Hey, I know you're scheduled to be here for another 6 months, but I'll give you a buyout. If you want to leave, I want to sell this house. We'll call it square. You're fine. You don't have to pay any more rent because you already paid last month. So you're good you can live here for another month and leave and we're good." And I ended up saying, "Yeah, that's awesome. I want to move in with Matt anyway." So I ended up moving out and he called me and said, "Hey, I need you to take out the trash." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, the trash barrel's on the side of the house. I need you to take it out." I said, "You can't just wheel it to the end of the street?" What do you mean? He's like, "Well,
right.
No, that defeats the purpose. It's principle." I said, and he's like, "Are you going to come up here?" I said, "No, absolutely not." I said, "I'll call 1-800-GOT-JUNK. They'll come take care of it." Right. And he's like, "You're not just going to you're going to pay somebody?" I said, "Yes, it's not worth my time to spend an hour and a half in the car for 5 minutes. I'll pay $150. Somebody can make money on that. That's cool.
Right.
And it'll get taken care of." So when you're early in business, though, I think this is what happens. And we talked about this on the team call too. So many people are concerned with saving money. And I think that's great. I absolutely think that's amazing. I think you should always be trying to save money. But I think what happens is that puts you in a scarce mindset. If I'm trying to save money, the last thing in the world I'm going to do is go pay somebody $200 a week to do our teaser clips. What I should be focused on is making more money.
Right.
What happens is now that I've invested, say, $250 a week on delegation for the podcast, I have to find a way to go make that $250. That's just now the cost of living for me.
Right.
Instead of saying I have to save money, I have to make more money because I want to delegate more things. And I think it's just that little mindset shift that makes a whole world of difference. Now, if you're dead broke and you just lost your job, make sure you're eliminating what you can. Get rid of Spotify. Sure, you can get rid of all that stuff. But you shouldn't be focused on saving. You should be focused on making more money.
And here, dude, that was powerful. And a couple of years ago, you would never have talked like that.
Never.
That's the really cool part about this. I can tell you're learning business because you understand. I used to get made fun of all the time for this. I used to say that if LeBron James is doing his own laundry, he's making a mistake. People hated when I said that. Right. Okay, let me try to unpack it though. There's nothing wrong with doing laundry if you like to do laundry. But let's say LeBron James pays a maid. So I have a client who pays their maid $50 a day to clean their $50 a week, to clean their place and do their laundry and stuff. When we worked with T-Mac, he had a person come in. Remember how awesome that was?
Yeah, one of my clients, every time I go to his house, he's The people are there cleaning the house.
Right. So $50 a week can literally take that off your plate. When imagine if LeBron took that time he would have spent doing his laundry and actually went and volunteered his time to raise money for a charity, because he has so much influence as one of the greatest basketball players to ever live. That's what I mean by that. If LeBron James is doing his own laundry, he's making a mistake. People don't like that statement, but if you understand what I'm really trying to say, like if you can make $200 on a Saturday and you can pay a high school kid $40 to mow your lawn, the high school kid needs that money. You're doing the high school kid a favor. And you're, by the way, numbers, you made $200 that day and enjoyed your day more. And that's a net 160 if you pay someone 40. Now, if you love mowing your lawn, of course, do that if that's your bliss. Like, I think the criteria for working smarter is number one. And this is one of the things that I wanted to bring to the table, Kev. I have trouble delegating the things I love. And what I've realized is that I tend to fall in love with what I do because I'm so mastery driven. So I don't delegate as well. Like, so for example, teaser clips. You delegated teaser clips and they're fire. And that's smart. I love making them. I used to do movie montages back in the day. Like when I was a young kid, Studio 9, back before, like, I remember this was like not long after dial-up internet. Yeah. And I think that one of the biggest bottlenecks to my own personal growth, and probably some of our listeners, is you've learned to love some of the things you do. And that's no longer the greatest use of your time based on impact.
Well, I was going to say, do you love making money more?
Yes.
Do you love coaching more?
Yes, exactly. That's a better question, dude. That's such a good question.
But for me, it's the same. Like I've told you this, and on our, again, I'll bring you in behind the scenes of a mastermind. When we were on the phone with
Kim,
I think it was just Kim and Summer, because Spike was, I think he was sick. But I said, like, I want your guys' advice because I feel like I'm doing way less than I ever have, and I'm starting to feel bad about it. And Kim was like, well, that means you've done a good job of delegating.
Right.
And it's time for you to use that time. This is what I've been doing on my system of success. I'm supposed to reach out to somebody every day for a client prospect. Find somebody who's looking to start a podcast, start a conversation with them. Boom. Right. If you do that and you get one client, even if I get one client a month,
right,
that is
more than pays for, right.
So it's not a matter of I'm not doing enough. It's a matter of make sure you're doing the right things.
Remember the story I told you about my ex-girlfriend when she talked about L-glutamine?
Yes.
I think this is a powerful story because I think this is something that a lot of people get tripped up by. I remember I was in the kitchen, we were having dinner, and I think we were like making microwavable dinners or something like that. And she said, "What do you think about L-glutamine?" And I remember turning to her and I said, "Honestly, sweetheart, like..."
For the listeners, what is L-glutamine? Because I bet you most people probably don't even know what it is.
It's something that would come, it's like a supplement. I honestly don't know the huge utility of it, to be completely frank. So I'll just defer to you. Right.
Oh, no,
and here's the reason I don't know. I told her this: until you're sleeping well, until you're hydrating well, until you're training consistently, until you're eating the right macros and the right amount of calories per day based on your goal, until you're doing mobility every day, don't worry about L-glutamine. Right. And to me, that's leverage. That's working smart, not hard. What I do with my fitness clients, I narrow their circle of concern to the only the things that actually matter most. In any given arena, there's only a few things that really, really matter. So if any of our listeners ever decide to work in real estate, Emilia's a real estate agent. So there's a couple things that really matter that only she can do. Pitching a listing, negotiating a claim, and prospecting. Most of her time needs to be spent there, and then she can eliminate, automate, and delegate everything else. You've got to separate the trivial few from, or the trivial many from the vital few. That's why Essentialism is one of my favorite books.
Yeah, I think so. Let's take this to somebody who isn't necessarily in business, because we talked a lot about business. If you're early in business, how does this apply to somebody who is just trying to get a better life? They're trying to be more productive. They work a 9 to 5 they like. They come home and then they do their thing. How does this apply to them?
Such a fire question. First of all, if you work a 9 to 5 as an employer, especially right now, by the way, this is such an important topic. You need to add more value to your employer than ever before to keep your job, in my opinion. So there's two master skills to career development. Number one is increasing your own value based on what your specific industry and business needs. Number two, making sure the correct people, the people that hold the decision-making power, see that value. So they need to see you contributing. You don't want to be that person behind the scenes who's doing all the work that no one else sees and then doesn't realize until after you're fired that they needed you, right? So number one, leverage, working smart. You need to understand exactly what matters most to your specific job. So I would go to your boss or your boss's boss and have a conversation. Listen, I want to prioritize my time and I want to make sure that I'm adding as much value as possible to you and this business. And they're going to love you for that. I coach business owners. My mentors are business owners. Some of them are executives for literally billion-dollar companies. They want everyone who works for them to come to them and say, what do you believe I should be doing with my time? They're going to literally love you.
Well, Neil talked about that too.
Exactly. Oh, that's right. Right. And then he literally, so if you haven't listened to that episode, it dropped Sunday. Neil talked about bringing your calendar to them and saying, help me prioritize. This is what I think is most valuable, but what do you think?
Right.
You're literally immediately a rock star in their mind. And this is what Kevin and I do on coaching calls, by the way. We help our clients dial in their day to maximize what they're doing to get the greatest output. So for example, one of my clients, she is running her own personal training business. And we talked a little bit about business and you wanted me to bring it to someone who's not starting their own business. Okay. So fitness is the best example I can give for that, which would be basically sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, and mobility. If you're sleeping 8 hours a night, if you're going to the gym every single day, focused on weight training, if you're getting at least 100 ounces of water per day, if you're foam rolling every single day, and if you're hitting your daily caloric intake, I would argue that you're working smart, not necessarily hard. But that's only because that's what Kevin and I have found to be the most valuable leverage points in the fitness arena. So for anyone else out there, you're going to have to reverse engineer your own finish line, which is predicated on clarity.
It's tough. It's tough to say like, okay, I think that's the thing at the end of the day. Like I would have to know what your specific goal is.
Right.
Right. Like I would have to know what is your specific goal. If you came to me and said, I want to spend more time with my family. Okay. Working smart instead of hard. Okay. You go to the gym, you do this. Okay. You like to go for runs. Okay. Let's work smart. And instead of you needing more hours in the day, why couldn't you take your family with you when you go for a run? Like push the marriage, your wife could come with you or whatever. Your kids could come with you. They'd love that. Ride their bikes.
What's an example of one of your clients that came to you for help? They wanted to reverse engineer a goal and you helped them leverage. Because I don't know if people fully understand the word leverage. It's just getting more out of your time.
Yeah, I do it with a mindset for sure. But the podcast, that's one of the biggest things because it's like you'll have somebody who comes to you and they're like, okay, I want to do this. 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 And I say like, that doesn't matter that much. Like that's not going to move the needle. It's not worth, I'll literally say that's not worth your time or money. Right.
Right.
You know, I don't necessarily know that I have a good exact example of that because it happens quite often, more often than you believe.
Well, before we even got on this podcast earlier today, one of the first things you said, which is why we're doing this topic, is I'm getting really focused on the 20% of things that really matter.
Yeah.
Because you and I were talking about these webcams and how they're not that good. And I didn't know how to screen cap on Zoom from my phone. And you're like, honestly, it's not a big deal because here's the thing. So 80% or more of our listeners are listening on iPhones from Apple Podcasts.
Right.
Now that we know that, we know that audio quality matters more than video. Both matter, but they don't matter equally. And I think that's the main thing.
And I think that's a good example. I'll have clients who say, okay, I want to do audio and video. That's what they want to do. They have a YouTube channel, but they also have the podcast. And what they'll say is, all right, I'm going to do Zoom. And I'll say, well, I don't know that I would. I might, if you don't care about seeing the person, I might use FaceTime audio instead because the audio is probably going to be better. And most of your listens are coming from that.
Right.
Or they'll say like, I want this episode to be like, is there any way you can take pictures of the people I'm talking about and superimpose onto the video? Yeah, I can. But like that might cost extra because that's going to be more work for me. I don't necessarily know that it's worth it because we're only 5 or 6 episodes in.
Right. Dude, working smart versus working hard comes down to being strategic.
I think it does, and resourceful.
Right.
If you don't have any resources, it's hard It's far harder to work smart, because working smart is basically suggesting that you're solving something. You're using your abilities to make something easier. I think money and finances is one of the easiest ways to do that, especially, and not even in business. When I paid somebody to go take out the trash for me, I wasn't in business.
Right.
I was in the business of keeping my time and valuing my time. But you could very easily do that. Like, pay somebody $20 every time you want your lawn mowed.
Right.
There you go. You're working smarter and not harder.
100%.
Maybe that 20 minutes isn't making more money. Maybe it's spending time with your family. Maybe it's so you can stay at work longer. Maybe it's because you want to join a pickup basketball league and it's Saturday afternoon. That's the only time, like,
Right.
you mean anything to anybody.
This is such a powerful topic, man. I think that we should have learned this in school. So I'm so upset that we didn't learn this in school. Because dude, it's like working smart and strategically with your money, with your time, and with your energy is so, like, okay, Headliner. I started using that earlier today, and you can set it up where it automates every episode that we launch, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
It will automatically take 1 minute from it and send it to my email.
Right.
And now I can put that on Instagram story, Snapchat, and Facebook story for everyone to enjoy. And it's just going to happen in the background. That's saving me time every episode we drop.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a perfect example of working smarter, not harder. And there's those opportunities are all around us, but if we're not looking for them, we're not going to see them. And I'm just as guilty of this as anybody, especially because if you're mastery driven, you're going to want to do it all yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing. Ask yourself, do I want to be the best in the world at this thing? Like, do you want to be the best in the world at making teaser clips, or do you want to be the best in the world at influencing people? There's a big difference. There's a big difference.
There's such a big difference.
Right. And this is, if you're coaching with me, this is what you're going to get. I want to ask you the hard questions of, like, yeah, I understand you like making teaser clips. You want to be the best in the world at it? Because if you do, it's time to change your business model around it. You should be doing what I'm doing if that's
So we were on a mastermind with Kim Spencer and Summer.
Timer just went off. So.
Oh, it did. I should have.
Oh, you're good. I mean, we're not at we don't have to stop necessarily at the hard because we don't have the camera on, but I do want it. It's 25 minutes in right now.
So I had one last question for you, Kev, which was, when we were on the phone with Kim and Summer, a lot of times on those masterminds, so working smart versus working hard. Kim, Summer, Spike, me, you, our calendar cannot stretch much more. All of us are working ridiculously hard. And so usually those masterminds are, how can we get more out of our time so that we can have, more time with our families, more time with our friends. Like, I remember when you and I did that time audit and we realized, okay, 158 hours of our week are taken, and these are our priorities, and this is where our time is going, 20 hours a week for a relationship, this, that, and the other thing. And we realized, like, oh, we have to cross out friends. Right. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Like, something's wrong here. So Kim talks about the genius zone versus the excellence zone. Can you talk a little bit to our listeners about how to find what's in their genius zone and how to design their life around what they're best at?
Yeah, I think that the genius zone is the stuff that you love doing that only you can do. Like, nobody can do. Alan and I, if this podcast keeps rolling, my genius zone is in front of this microphone. Alan's genius zone is in front of this microphone. That's where you can be world class, and nobody else can do that for you. I can pay somebody to make teaser clips. I can pay somebody to do this YouTube video. I can pay somebody to set up my equipment. I can't pay anybody to do this.
Right. Pay someone to do the show notes. Right.
Yeah. Any part of that, yes. But my genius zone is one-on-one coaching, getting on the phone with somebody and saying, hey, this is what you need to do for your podcast. This is what you need to do for your mindset, your business, whatever. The podcast.
Right.
Speaking.
Yep.
I can't hire somebody to give my speech. I can, but what's the point?
Right.
I love speaking.
Right.
Speaking. So I think your genius zone is something that you're good at, that you love doing, that you get fulfilled doing, that you can't be replaced.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Absolute fire.
And then the excellence zone is like, I might be good at making teaser clips. Like, I think I'm pretty excellent at making teaser clips.
Right.
Do I enjoy it? Like, not a ton. No, not a ton. Do I want to be the best in the world? No.
Right.
Is my time more valuable somewhere else? Yes, absolutely.
The question that you asked, do I want to be the best in the world at this? I'll never forget when Emilia said, that when we did the commitment episode, that was a more powerful question for her than best in the world. Because a lot of people don't want to be the best in the world, or maybe that doesn't resonate the same way. When Kevin asked me, do you want to be the best in the world at making teaser clips? My answer is no. And then immediately it's like, why am I wasting my time on doing that? And it's like, well, I do want to be the best in the world at positive influence. And maybe in my mind, that's the reason. But for you listeners out there, what are you committed to being great at that you know can help other people? Find those few things. I was on the phone with Kevin, this will be the last thing I say, not long ago. And I remember asking, like, in the decade, what do you want to be? When this whole Corona thing happened, I kind of had a little mini freak out a little later than most when I realized how drastic this was going to change things. And I sat down with Kevin. I said, okay, in a decade, what do you want to be still doing? What does your life look like? I remember you said podcasting, hyperconscious live events, speaking, coaching. And it was like, okay, hell yeah, those are mine too. Not only will the people you spend time with also be in similar arenas that they want to master those crafts too, but like, what are you committed to that you care about, that you love doing, that you can kind of design your life around those things? Those are your sort of big rocks that will anchor you and keep you centered.
Well, you also know what you're trying to make progress towards. Like for me, I don't want to get better at making teaser clips. I want to get more clients so I can grow my podcast agency. But that all started with me making teaser clips. Once I realized, okay, I don't want to do that part of it. That's a big part of my business, right? But I don't necessarily have to be the one that creates them. I can create the content and do all that. I want to turn this into a bigger business. That is my genius zone. My genius zone is helping people with their podcast. What actually makes up helping them with their podcast? A ton of different things.
Right.
But I can delegate all those small things for the big thing.
Last question for you, Kev. How do you help the listeners understand? If you never made teaser clips, you might not have ever gotten the opportunity to be a podcast coach.
I most likely wouldn't have.
So how do we help our listeners understand when it's time to delegate?
Yes. Okay. I could, but I wasn't trying to be a podcast coach back then. I was trying to be a mindset coach. Even then, I should have delegated. If something is taking up a large portion of your time and you can pay somebody a reasonable amount of money to do it while making more money and doing stuff that you love, you should be delegating.
Fire.
As long as it's not going to break the bank.
And it's helping that other person because that's their genius zone.
Exactly.
And that's how the economy runs. So that's fire. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, when I paid 1-800-GUT-JUNK to get my stuff, I paid somebody to do their job that day.
And that's their business. You're helping them grow their business.
And I didn't have to do something I didn't want to do.
Fire.
It's one of the reasons money is very important, because it helps you delegate and be resourceful.
Mm.
You dig?
Yeah, this is a fire episode, man.
It's very
powerful concepts.
Very important. All right, so we don't know who we're going to have on Sunday yet.
Yes.
Because I don't know if we have anybody lined up. We got to figure that out. I do know that next Monday, we talked about Coach Burt a little bit. Next Monday, we're actually interviewing Coach Burt again. That's going to be fire.
Oh, dude, synchronistic. I didn't
very
even
much looking forward to that.
We did talk also about having Taryn and Emilia on at some point soon.
That is true. That would be a whole different thing now because it's all remote. We could do it, but that would be like.
Oh, so I figured it would be you two and us two virtually just like this, but we don't have that many mics.
I have another mic here.
I think I might have the fourth one actually, but I don't know how to hook them both up to the laptop. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we'd have to figure that out, but that's something in the future for sure.
Sounds good.
But until then, we'll figure it out. Okay, so we hope you enjoyed this. We don't know what's happening yet on Sunday, but on Monday, what are we doing? Because we're going to record that now.
We are recording. The world has changed drastically in a very short amount of time, and Kevin and I want to help you understand the implications of diving deep into your own personal development now, because the future economy is going to need a different set of skills than the past has, and we want to make sure that you're positioning yourself for success.
Fire.
Yeah.
Fire. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this. This was we were all over the place on this one, but clearly Alan and I love talking about this, so that's why we jumped all over the place. We hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.